Hi guys, a very good morning and welcome to Power Breakfast. I'm Pavitra Parekh. Those are the top headlines that we have for you as we get into this final trading session of the week. There's lots going on when we'll get to all of those individual stories. But first up, a look at the global markets. We did see Wall Street end with some kind of positive gains, and Asia is also opening pretty mixed right now. What's not doing well is the Hong Kong market. That's down 240 points, so over 1% gone over there. You also have Shanghai, which is opening with cuts of around 25 points. No big losses there, but it is marginally lower right now. You have the rest of the Asian markets which are holding up quite well. Nikkei opens up after a holiday, but it is 1.2% higher right now. Whether you look at Taiwan, Straits, Kospi, all of those seeing decent gains come through. Just a minor uptick on the Taiwanese index, but whether you look at the Straits or Kospi, they're all opening in the green. So pretty mixed across the Asian markets. The SGX Nifty will also come up for you, and it is indicating that the start will be in the green, around 53 points higher, but let's see how we move from there. That's what's going on across the Asian markets, but let's also talk about the US then. Wall Street ended a volatile session higher, so the Dow Jones closed with gains of over 100 points. The S&P 500 was around 0.5% higher, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq advanced 0.7%. The street also absorbed a raft of economic data that came through, including the fall in weekly jobless claims as well as GDP growth. The U.S. economy grew 2.7%. This is for the fourth quarter. Both the numbers came in just below expectations. So that is some important data that we're tracking from the US. But staying with Wall Street, let's also listen in to some important opinion coming through from Jamie Dimon, President and CEO of JP Morgan Chase, as he speaks on the Fed's inflation fight as well as the outlook for the US economy. Listen in.
The U.S. economy right now is doing quite well. Consumers have a lot of money. They're spending it. Jobs are plentiful. I think it's fabulous, by the way, that wages are going up for the low end. There's still a chance for a soft landing. I mean, right. I wouldn't take that off the list of possibilities. The fact is we lost a little bit of control of inflation. Models didn't pick that up. I've always been suspicious of models, and when we use them extensively, I always say that you use a little bit of judgment too. And there's been a sea change. Governments are borrowing a lot of money, and you got to incorporate that in what's taking place. That means they're spending it. That's inflationary. Wages we've seen come down, but not so much. Oil and gas will probably be going up because the investment has been curtailed. The green economy, we think it's close to $4 trillion a year of additional spending. So you're talking, and the IRA Act, which I think has a lot of good stuff in it, the Infrastructure Act, the CHICS Act, this is huge money. And so, you've had a sea change. And I think we should all get adjusted to that. We'll have more normalization of interest rates, and we'll be fine.
All right, that is some important opinion that we're tracking, but let's now talk about all of the cues that you should watch as we get into this trading session. We have our research team here with the trade setup. Mangalam and Vivek join me to take you through all of the cues that you should watch and all of the individual stocks also that are likely to be in the news today. Guys, a very good morning to all of you. Vivek, first up to you. Take us through everything that we should watch from a market standpoint. Of course, this entire week has been hugely dominated by what's going on globally.
Well, absolutely right. Good morning to you. Well, what's actually happened is that the US markets as well as the Indian markets yesterday followed a very similar trading pattern, opened up with reasonable gains, a sharp intraday dip, and then, ending the gains with a minor recovery. Of course, Indian markets continue to end in the red. US markets, as you mentioned, ending with minor gains. Some interesting data point, Dow Jones is now set to head lower for the fourth straight week. And yesterday, chip maker Nvidia was the one that actually surged in trade as the company provided a very strong demand outlook for some of the chips that it makes. European markets, again, a very mixed handover coming in there as well. DAX closed higher by close to 0.5%, but despite that, overall sentiment still remains quite wary as far as the overall European outlook or European handover was concerned. Crude oil prices yesterday jumped quite significantly. A 2% uptick is what we saw in crude oil prices. Both Brent futures as well as WTI futures gained over 2% in the session. Oil prices managed to snap a 6-session losing streak. Coming to the own Asian markets, like you mentioned earlier, a very mixed cues coming in. SGX Nifty is indicating a mildly positive start. We'll be starting a fresh FNO series. And, when you're talking about yesterday, the Nifty failed to hold on to the intraday recovery that it saw. And now it's down for 5 straight trading sessions. So, all eyes today, whether the fresh series can start off on a good note.
All right, let's see if that does happen. Vivek, thanks a lot for getting us all of those cues. Let's also talk about the individual stocks that we should watch in today's trading session. Surbi is here with that entire list. Good morning, Surbi.
Few names that I'm tracking this morning. The first one is the entertainment, where the company is excluded from the F&O segment due to the IBC proceedings. Next is RVNL. The company has won a new order worth 197 crores. Axis Bank, the company sees possibility of completing acquisition of Citibank units by March 1st. Electra Green Tech develops hydrogen bus in technical partnership with Reliance. Karnataka Bank, the company enters into a co-lending agreement with Pesalo Digital. And lastly, Sanofi India, where the company declares its Q4 calendar year 2022 results, where the revenue was down 2% on a year-on-year basis, EBITDA was up 31%, and margins came in at 25% versus 19% same time last year.
Right, Surbhi, thanks a lot for getting us that entire list of stocks. We will watch for these in today's trading session. But finally, let's also talk about the cues from the futures and options space. Mangalam is here as we start a fresh new series. Mangalam.
Hello, Pavitra. You know, when we start a fresh new series, we say hello to the March series. And the big question that we ask this time around is that, is March series going to be the one where bulls make a strong comeback? Why do I say that? Well, we do have a strong setup here. March as a series itself is known for big moves on either side. Of course, March 2020 was marred by the COVID-related issue, so the series saw a 3,000-point cut. March 21 saw a 770-point cut, but last March, we saw an over 1,200-point move on the index itself. And now the Nifty is going into March series with 3 series of losses. So in the last 3 series, we've lost almost 1,000 points between December, Jan and Feb. So the question is, will bulls have their say? And while this decline has happened, you know, what's also declined is the conviction of the participants, because between Feb to March, the rollovers have been just 73%, as against the last 3 months where we've seen 80% rollovers. And these rollovers have usually been on the short side itself. The Nifty has about 1.05 crore shares in open interest, and you know, that's pretty much in line with what we've seen earlier as well. The FII long exposure in index futures at the start of the series is just 19%, and that's what gives you the hope that maybe these guys would be caught on the wrong side, primarily because in the last 3 times when the FII long exposure at the start of the series was so low, the market saw a big move. At the start of July 2022, the FII longs were 15%. The market moved 1150 points in that series. October, the FII longs was just 13%. The market moved 919 points. And here we have FII longs at 19% after a 1,000-point decline. The question is, can we see a big up move? That depends on the big triggers. Global central bank commentary is something we'll be watching out for. Geopolitical, institutional flows is something. And March is also the end of the FY23 year. So could there be some institutional buying to prop their NAVs? We'll only know.
All right, we will wait and see how that goes. Mangalam, thanks a lot for taking us through all of those cues. We do have to get into a short break here, but on the other side, we're going to bring you some very interesting excerpts from our conversation with Sajjan Jindal and Irfan Razack on the sidelines of the EBUY Entrepreneur of the Year Awards. Back, you're still tuned into Power Breakfast on CNBC-TV18, and let's now bring you the latest from the corporate world. EBUY honored the best business leaders at their annual Entrepreneur of the Year Awards. So JSW Group Sajjan Jindal was named the EBUY Entrepreneur of the Year, while Prestige Group's Irfan Razack was awarded Entrepreneur of the Year in the Energy, Real Estate and Infrastructure category. My colleagues Shilpa and Jude both caught up with the 2 leaders to get a sense of their outlook on the industry. So let's listen in to those conversations.
As far as steel demand is concerned, the government of India is spending so much money on infrastructure, spend on development, whether it's the railways, whether it's the highways, whether it's the housing, and everything needs steel. So therefore, steel is growing like crazy.
But I also have to ask, given the fact that exports from China have not seen as much reduction as they were initially projected, given the fact that the Chinese economy is reopening, things are getting back on track, does that pose some concern for Indian steel players?
No, not at all. Actually, China is, of course, China has this tendency that they tend to dump steel or dump their products into a country and kill their domestic industry, and then after that they tend to increase their prices. This is their traditional style of doing business. Our government is very, very proactive, and they ensure that whenever these kind of things happen, then they are very quick to implement some sort of restriction, some sort of anti-dumping. So therefore, I'm not concerned about China dumping steel into India.
Mm-hmm. Moving forward in the capex and expansion front, are we to assume everything is on track? Any changes expected going forward?
For JSW?
Yes, and also for the industry itself.
No, I think I would say that steel industry probably is an industry which is investing the most in capital expenditure. Probably, if you look at the different industries, I think the steel industry has the biggest capital expenditure plan going forward.
Where do you think that the key growth demand driver will lie in the Indian context?
It's across the industries, whether it is petrochemical, chemical, steel, cement. Every industry is seeing a double-digit growth. So this is quite phenomenal, including auto.
Yeah, and I have to ask you, in terms of real estate itself, there's been a massive rebound post-COVID, especially on the home sales front. Even commercial developers have been doing rather well. Do you think that with interest rates going up, you can continue to expect some momentum to be maintained there, which will in turn, supplement the demand for steel going forward?
So real estate, of course, is very sensitive to interest rate hikes. I hope that interest rates don't go up that much, which starts to hurt our growth as a country. Because for India, it is more important to grow than to worry about inflation.
It's again a focus. It's a solid focus, a belief, and then a proper plan. And I think if we look at the overall picture, we should see that this is our goal. Right. This is what you're going to focus on, and this is how we are going to do it. It's like any game or that you play. Right. You have to play to win, and I think Prestige, the team, is there to play to win, and that's how we are trying to win this year's target of 12,000. We almost reached very close to it, and I think we should surpass that.
Okay, wonderful. And you had an investor call where you had laid out some ambitious targets. Just if you could quickly run us through that on record for us also here, quickly and what is truly the goalpost that you're looking at?
Yes, we did have an analyst meet in Mumbai just a couple of days ago, and that was just to tell the analysts what we are doing, what the company is looking at, and they were all very, very curious to know what Prestige is up to in Mumbai. Are they really going to succeed? What are the types of projects they are going to do? So we felt it appropriate to have that analyst meet in one of our sites, and that we did that in our Prestige City site in Mulund, and it was truly an eye-opener for them. And we ran through the entire whatever the company is planning, because Prestige is just not a housing company. Prestige does housing. As let's see, many companies in real estate is either doing housing, or is doing retail malls, or is doing office, or is doing hospitality. Correct. But we are one company, or one of the very few companies which are doing all asset classes. So we said, let's at least speak this out. Let's take them, through the walk through the whole journey of what Prestige is up to. And we did set a target for 2026 of a top line of 25,000 crores of sales in housing. We said we'll reach a target of 2,500 crores annuity income in the next 5 years. And we also talked about X amount of keys in hospitality. Right. And we are building another 7 to 8 malls. 2 are already, one is open, one is getting ready and will open in the next couple of months. And but there's a long line of retail malls across the country, and including Bengaluru, that's getting produced.
All right, those are two very interesting conversations. Both Sajan Jindal and Irfan Razak saying that they're seeing very solid demand and that the outlook going forward definitely still looks very positive. But with that, let's also bring in an important update. US President Joe Biden has nominated Ajay Banga, the former CEO of MasterCard, to succeed David Malpass as the next president of the World Bank. The US president, in a statement, also hailed Banga's credentials, as he said he has a unique perspective on the opportunities and challenges facing developed countries, which would help the World Bank deliver on its ambitious goals of reducing poverty and then expanding prosperity as well. So that's an important update we wanted to bring you. But with that, we are going to get into a short break on the show. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast, and let's talk about the commodity space because there's lots going on there as well. Manisha joins us for an update. Manisha, it's really been a lot about the oil prices this week.
Oh, well, yes, Pavitra, and very volatile. It's been 3% down to 2% up is exactly how we've seen the crude prices trade, very volatile. Well, the latest has been that the Russia now plans to cut crude exports from its west port as well by 25% in the month of March versus February. Now, this looks like that this is a proposed reduction in excess of 5% announced already by the Deputy Oil Minister in the previous month. The markets in the meanwhile also have seen a 9th weekly gain in inventories, and now it stands at 60 million barrels of a gain in last 9 weeks, and we are at a 2021 high at 850 million barrels in sense of crude inventories as of now. The markets also are taking support from the fact that the new Chinese refiners are now coming on stream as well. But what is not done so well has been the metal space. So we have seen the copper prices decline by 1.5% in this week. The copper prices have come off its 3-week highs. The global central banks are still signaling on long periods of restrictive policy ahead, and that seems to have really dampened the mood of metals. So precious metals, base metals, all trading slightly in the negative.
All right, Manisha, thanks a lot for getting us that quick update. We will wind down on the show on that note. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Bazaar Morning Call up in 2.